to us like that day, so we didn't.
Yep. Okay, this is 1-3. We're on the second half of it. We really don't have very much left, so here we go. We're on example 5. We're multiplying complex numbers. There's 3 parts or 3 questions to this. We're just foiling, just as though I were x. And then we'll do something funky here in a minute. 2 times 3 is 6. 2 times 4i is plus 8i. This middle part, minus 9i. Okay, then what is negative 3i times positive 4i squared? Or 4i.
Negative 12. But
Negative 12
you have to change the sign.
I squared, right? Because there's 2 i's. And then whenever you're foiling like complex numbers like this, you will always have an I squared on the back of him. And I squared is negative 1, which is going to take that 12 and make it a positive 12. And then I'm going to combine my 6 with my 12 to make 18 minus 1i, or just minus I, because that's 8 minus 9i is minus I. Do you see how that works? Yes, yes? Okay. Beautiful. All right, now, what's the difference in part B?
We actually have to,
Like to square something means to multiply it by itself. So 4 plus 3i, we're multiplying him, okay? All right, you want to try it on your own? Do this real quick on your own. I'll start in like 10 seconds. Or I'll just go and then you can check your answer with me. Yeah, did you get that? Awesome. Okay. All right, C. 7 plus 24, all right. C, what's the difference in C?
It's a difference of squares, so I'll do the
Yeah, you're right. It's like a difference of squares. They're conjugates.
Yeah.
Like the result of a difference of squares. Right, so what's going to happen?
the middles are going to
The middles will cancel, right? I'll write out the middles.
Oh, goodness.
61. Yeah, 61? And that's it? Awesome. Do we see how that works? That I squared will always end up becoming a negative 1, and it'll switch the sign of the number in front of it. Good? Okay, we just multiplied conjugates, and we just said that those middle 2 pieces will cancel out, right? So there's that. Okay, next. I don't know why this one's hazy here. Okay. All right, dividing complex numbers, they want us to find each quotient. In the chapter like before this, they would use the words rationalize, rationalize, because we don't like to have square roots in the bottom, but we don't like to have i's in the bottom also. So this 2i on the top is totally fine, but the I on the bottom is bad. How do I get the I out of the bottom?
get times 5 plus I.
5 plus I. Okay, why 5 plus I?
Because it's the conjugate.
And then the middle 2 pieces will cancel out. All right, so let's do the bottom first, just because. Okay, 5 times 5 is 25. 5 times I is plus 5i minus 5i. If you don't want to write that, you don't have to. What is negative I times positive I?
Just negative I. But then it's
Negative I squared.
negative 1.
And I squared is negative 1, so that'll be plus 1,
So
right?
26.
So bottom number is 26. Okay, do we follow that? Okay, top now. 3 times 5 is 15. 3 times I is plus 3i. 2i times 5 is plus 10i. And 2i times I is plus 2i squared.
Minus 2.
So, negative 1, that means minus 2. So 15 minus 2 is 13
Plus 13.
plus 13i. Hold up.
Reduce all those.
We can reduce all of them. We can divide everything by
13.
13, right? 13 divided by 13 is 1. 13 divided by 13 is 1. 26 divided by 13 is 2. So this is 1 plus I over 2. Now, they may also write this as 1/2 plus 1/2 I, right? And like separate it into 2 pieces. You don't have to. You can leave it like that. But just so you know, if you see that, that's what that looks like, right? It's just saying that those are under the same roof. Okay, good? All right, what if it's just 3 over I? How do I get the I out of the bottom? Times I. Do I have to take it times negative I? Because like negative I would be like the conjugate of I. No, you don't have to. You can just take them times I. 3I over I squared, which is negative 1. So 3I over what's 3I divided by negative 1? What's 3 divided by negative 1? Right? 3 divided by negative 1 is 3. Negative 3. So I'm just going to make it so he doesn't have a denominator anymore and just make him negative 3I. Make sense? Ish. Now, in these last two problems, the goal was to try to get the I out of the bottom. I got the I out of the bottom. I got the I out of the bottom because there's no bottom anymore, right? Good? Okay, last thing. This is my favorite. Okay. Okay, let's talk here. Let's go I to the 4th power. Let's go I to the, write this off to the side. I to the 5th, I to the 6th, and I to the 7th. Okay, we'll do each one of those scenarios.
Can we get like I to the negatives too?
We will.
Okay.
Here in a
All you
bit.
have to do is flip it over.
Yeah, you just have to flip
It's
it
the
over.
same rules, you
Over
just
one.
flip it
Yep,
over
yep,
one.
yep. So here's the deal. When you are simplifying these, you will only get one of 4 answers. There's only 4 possible answers. Okay? They are 1, negative 1, I, and negative I. Okay? Those are the 4 possible answers that you will get for these problems when you're breaking them down. Okay? All right. I do not know what I to the 4th power is. The only thing I know is I squared. Right? I know I squared is negative 1. But I know that if I take I squared times itself 2 times, that gives me I to the 4th power. Right?
So it's negative 1.
Okay?
Right,
So...
actually it's 1. It's 1.
So I squared is negative 1, right? Negative 1 squared is a positive 1. So I to the 4th power becomes positive 1. Done. Does that make sense? Let's go jump over to I to the 6th power. I know I squared, right? But I have to take I squared to the 3rd power to make 6, right? Like that makes 6, okay? But I squared is negative 1, so this is like taking negative 1 to the 3rd power. And that is negative 1. So, if the exponent is even, like 4 and 6 and 8 and 102 and whatever, right? Your answer will either be 1 or negative 1. Now, you can go even further and say, if it's a number that's divisible by 4, it's going to be positive 1. If it's not divisible by 4, right? Like 6 is even, but it's not divisible by 4, it's going to be a negative 1. Right? So let's say I have I to the, let's say I have I to the 18th power. Is that going to be 1 or negative 1? Negative 1, right? 18 is even, but it's not divisible by 4, right? I to the 16th power is divisible by 4, so that's going to be a positive 1. Does that make sense? Okay, now let's do the other ones. I to the 5th power. I know that if I do I squared, that gives me 4 of them, right? But then I have to multiply by another I to the 1st power to make 5 total, right? So like that's how that works. 2 times 2 is 4 plus 1 more is 5, right? You see how that works? Okay. Now, I squared is negative 1 and negative 1 squared is positive 1 times this other I that's just chilling. So I to the 5th power ends up being just I. Confusion? Not too bad, okay? I to the 7th power works the same. We got I squared, and I'm getting really close to 7. I'm trying to get really close to 7. So I'm going to do 3, right? Because that will make 6 if I multiply those, times another I to the 1st power. That makes 7, okay? I squared is negative 1. Negative 1 cubed is still negative 1 times I. Negative 1 times I is just negative I. So if it is an odd exponent, like 5 and 7 and 51 and 101, right? Those are either going to be I or negative I. Okay.
So if it's divisible by 5?
Nope.
No. If
If
it's 1 after something that's divisible by 4.
If it's 1 more than a number divisible by 4, then it's going to be positive I. If it's 1 less than a number divisible by 4, it's going to be negative I, right? Okay, so let's say like I to the 17th power, right? What's the closest number that's divisible? 16. This is 1 more than, which is plus, so that means he's going to be positive I. Okay, got it? Makes sense? Let's do I to the 23rd power. 24 is divisible by 4. This is 1 less than, so it's going to be negative. That makes sense? Less than means minus I. 1 more than means positive I. Yeah. Okay, good? All right, this one's I to the 15th power.
So 16.
So 16 and it's 1 less than, so he's going to be negative I. Now, if you need to see it out, it would be I squared to the 7th power. That would be 14 of them, times 1 more I. So negative 1 to the 7th power is negative 1 times I, which is negative I. But he's 1 less than 16, so he's going to be negative. Does this make sense? Okay, good? All right, B. What's the difference with B? It's a negative exponent. How do I get rid of negative exponents?
Homie, do you have a calculator I can use?
What do you want? You can have that one.
I need a camera.
You know how to run that one?
No,
What kind of calculator do you know how to run?
just a calculator.
It's just a calculator.
How to run this guy?
I'll use this one. Thank you.
Okay, if he's a negative exponent, how do I fix him?
Over 1, right?
1 over I to the positive third. Okay, now we fix him.
1 less than negative I.
So I to the 3rd power is I squared to the 1st power times another I, right? Okay, I squared is negative 1. Negative 1 to the 1st power is still negative 1 times I, so that's negative I, right? So this is really like 1 over negative I is what we have, yeah?
Yeah.
Ooh, what a mess. Okay, that's what he simplifies to. Or the rule says if he's 1 less than a number divisible by 4, that's negative I, right? Okay, now he's not done yet because I don't want i's in the bottom. So how do I get that I out of there?
Times it by I.
Times it by I. You could, if you wanted to, times it by negative I, but it doesn't matter. On the top, what do you have? I. On the bottom, you have negative I squared.
Negative 1.
Okay, and negative I squared is negative 1,
So just negative
which
I.
is positive 1, right? So you have I over positive 1, which is just
Negative.
I,
Or just positive I.
just positive I, right? Negative 1, which is positive I. Yes. What a mess. Okay, good?
Stop recording.
Fancy with that? All right. Okay, we're done. That's it. All right.
When